The roof didn't just creak under the storm that day. It hid Serafina's whispers, sharp and cruel, unraveling the life I thought was mine. My name is Arthur, a logistics manager with a steady life I'd worked hard to build. I wasn't rich, but I had enough, a decent job, a quiet apartment, and Sarah, my wife of 3 years. She was my anchor, with her quick wit and hazel eyes that seemed to see right through me. I'd lie awake sometimes, watching her sleep, remembering our early days, stolen kisses at a dive bar, her laughter as we danced in the rain after a concert. Those moments felt like promises etched deep in my bones. We were saving for a house, a $950,000 dream that wasn't just a place to live, but a symbol of our future. I'd scroll through listings, imagining her planting flowers in the yard, me building a deck for summer nights. It was everything we'd worked for, everything I believed in. Then there was Eleanor, Sarah's mother. 57, with polished nails and a smile that never reached her eyes, she carried herself like royalty. When she offered $200,000 for the house's down payment, I was floored by her generosity. But there was always a catch with Eleanor, a subtle control in her tone. She'd drop comments about my finances, saying things like, "You need to be practical, Arthur. Serafina's the one with a real earning potential." I'd brush it off, chalk it up to her being protective. Sarah adored her mom, and I loved Sarah. Love makes you ignore the cracks, doesn't it? You tell yourself it's nothing, just your imagination. That morning, I was up on the roof of our rented duplex, fixing shingles ripped loose by a storm. The landlord was useless, always dodging calls, so I took it on myself. There's a quiet satisfaction in manual work, a sense of control when the world feels unsteady. The neighborhood was still, the air cool, just me and the steady tap of my hammer. I was nearly done when I heard Sarah's car pull into the drive, tires crunching gravel. Her laugh floated up, bright and careless, followed by Eleanor's deeper chuckle. They didn't know I was there, settling onto the back porch below with their coffee mugs clinking. I was about to call out, a smile already forming when I heard my name. "Arthur's so caught up in that house," Sarah said, her voice laced with something ugly, like she was mocking a child. "He thinks it's our forever home. God, he's like a little dog, always panting after me." Eleanor's laugh hit me like a slap. "Men are so predictable, darling. He actually believes the house will be in both your names?" My breath caught, my hands froze. The hammer slipped from my grip, clattering softly. "No," Sarah said, her tone smug. "I told him it's smarter to put it in my name because of his credit score. He bought it completely. Once it's signed, I'll wait a year, maybe less. I'll say we've drifted apart, something vague. He'll be gone, and the house will be mine." Eleanor's voice turned sharp with approval. "You're playing this perfectly. Your father thought he could outsmart me in our divorce, but I secured my future. Now you're doing the same." The words sank into me, heavy and cold. My chest tightened, my ears rang, a wave of nausea clawing up my throat. I wanted to retch, to scream, to tear through the roof and face them. Sarah's laugh, the one I'd cherished, now felt like shards of glass. A memory flickered, her hand in mine at a friend's wedding, promising forever, and it shattered against the venom I was hearing. They kept talking, oblivious. Eleanor's gift was a trap, a way to lock me in. Sarah had been cataloging my flaws, long hours, a late bill, to paint me as unreliable if I fought back. "He's such a fool," Sarah giggled. "Remember when he got choked up over that scarf I gave him? Said no one's ever been so thoughtful. It was $10 at a thrift store." I couldn't move. My hands shook, my heart pounding so hard I thought it'd break my ribs. Betrayal doesn't just sting, it hollows you out, leaves you gasping in the ruins of your trust. But something else stirred, a flicker of ice-cold clarity. My fingers, trembling, found my phone. I hit record, capturing every damning word. Part of me wanted to climb down to see their faces when I exposed them. But another part, sharper, whispered, "Stay calm. Get proof. Be smarter than they think you are." I stayed frozen, recording until their voices faded as they moved inside. Then I climbed down the far side, legs unsteady, the ground feeling like it might swallow me. The duplex wasn't home anymore, it was a lie I'd been living in. I grabbed my keys and drove. No direction, just motion to keep the pain at bay. The city blurred past neon signs, strangers' faces, a world that didn't care. How'd I miss this? How'd I love someone so cruel? Eventually, I ended up at Marcus's place. He's my oldest friend, a lawyer who's seen me through my worst days. I didn't call ahead, just knocked, hands still shaking. He opened the door, his easy grin fading when he saw me. I handed him my phone, played the recording without a word. He listened, his jaw tightening, eyes flashing with anger. When it ended, he leaned back, exhaling sharply. "This is vicious, Arthur." He paused, searching my face. "You holding up?" I shook my head, throat too tight to speak. Marcus leaned forward, voice steady. "You got something solid here, but you can't rush this. They think they've got you fooled, let them. We'll protect your money, build a case, but you need to stay calm. If you confront them now, you risk everything." His words pulled me back, gave me something to grip onto. He was right. I couldn't let rage win, not yet. Marcus laid it out. Secure my finances, gather more evidence, prepare for a long fight. "They're arrogant," he said. "That's their mistake. Let them dig their own graves." I left with a plan, but the weight of it pressed on me. First stop was the bank. My savings, $120,000 from years of overtime, sat in a joint account. Moving it felt wrong, like I was the one betraying her, even though it was my money. The teller's routine questions stung, each one a reminder of how my life had unraveled. I opened a new account, transferred every dollar, my pulse racing like I was committing a crime. Back home, I dug into our digital life, cloud backups, shared browsers, credit card statements. I paused at the idea of tracking apps, a pang of guilt hitting me. Was I stooping to their level, becoming sneaky like them? No, I decided. I'd stick to what was legal, what was mine to see. That night, Sarah came home, all warmth and false care. "Hey, honey, rough day?" she asked, her lips brushing my cheek. My skin crawled, but I forced a smile, played the part. "Just work," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. She chatted about her latest deal, her eyes lingering on me a little too long, testing me. I kept my face neutral, my heart locked tight. Up on that roof, I learned something. I wasn't the fool they thought. Not anymore. Every day became a performance, a tightrope walk over a pit of rage and hurt. I woke up next to Sarah, her breathing soft and steady, and felt my stomach twist. The woman I'd loved was a stranger now, her every smile a calculated move in a game I hadn't known we were playing. Breakfasts were the worst, her chatter about work, her hand brushing mine, each moment a lie I had to swallow. My body rebelled against it. Sleep slipped away, leaving me staring at the ceiling, my mind replaying her words from the roof. Food lost its taste, and the mirror showed a man thinning out, eyes hollowed by secrets. I wanted to snap, to shake her and demand why, but Marcus's voice echoed in my head. "Stay calm. Let them think they're winning." I played the devoted husband, nodding at her stories, forcing laughs at her jokes. But inside, I was unraveling, haunted by the ghost of who we'd been. I catch myself remembering her head on my shoulder during a late-night movie, her warmth real back then, or so I'd thought. Those memories clashed with the truth, leaving me raw. I wasn't just angry, I was terrified of being caught, of slipping up and giving her the upper hand. Yet that fear fueled me, sharpened my focus. I wasn't their puppet anymore. I was building a cage for them, one truth at a time. The first crack in their plan showed up in Sarah's commission reports. She'd always shared them with me, proud of her real estate hustle, but something felt off now. I'd done my homework when we started house hunting, learning market rates, so I pulled up her numbers and cross-checked them against public listings. The math didn't add up. Sales she claimed were small fetched higher prices online. The differences siphoned somewhere else. My pulse quickened as I dug deeper, suspicion hardening into certainty. She was skimming, hiding money, and I needed to know where it was going. Late one night, while Sarah slept, I checked our shared credit card statements. A pattern emerged, small charges, easy to miss, tied to transfers I hadn't noticed before. One led to a bank account I didn't recognize in her name alone. My hand shook as I copied the details, but I needed more. My sister Claire, an accountant with a knack for numbers, became my quiet ally. I sent her the data, keeping it vague to protect her. She traced the transfers, confirming they flowed to an account linked to Eleanor. The amounts were steady, deliberate, a stream of betrayal disguised as routine. Claire's voice was tight when she called. "This isn't random, Arthur. They're hiding something big." Her words pushed me further. Claire dug deeper, following the money's trail. It wasn't easy. Eleanor's accounts were tangled, layered with shell transactions, but Claire found a thread. The funds were feeding payments for a luxury condo, a beachfront escape in Sarah's name, set to be hers after she cut me loose. The discovery hit like a fist. They weren't just planning to take our house, they were building a whole future without me, laughing while I poured my life into their trap. I sat in the dark, staring at the evidence on my laptop, a cold resolve settling in. They'd underestimated me, and that was their mistake. The hunt for proof wasn't without risks. One evening, I was in Sarah's home office, scanning papers she'd left out, when I heard her car pull up early. My heart slammed against my ribs as I shoved the documents back, grabbing a random book to cover my tracks. She walked in, eyes narrowing for a split second before softening. "Looking for something, babe?" she asked, her voice too sweet. "Just grabbing this," I said, holding up the book, my pulse deafening. She nodded, but I felt her watching me as I left the room. The close call burned in my chest, a reminder to be sharper, faster. Marcus kept me grounded, pulling me back when rage threatened to take over. He'd been digging too, reaching out to an old contact, Daniel, a former colleague of Sarah's. Daniel was hesitant at first, cagey about crossing her, but Marcus worked him carefully. Over coffee, Daniel admitted Sarah had screwed him out a major deal, bragging later about how Eleanor's connections smoothed it over. He'd kept emails, bitter proof of her gloating, and passed them to Marcus. Each one was a brick in the wall I was building, solidifying my case. I wasn't just fighting for money, I was fighting for the truth. The breaking point came one morning, the air thick with tension. Sarah was at the stove, flipping pancakes, her cheer dialed up like a mask. She talked about the house, how close we were to signing. My jaw ached from clenching, but I nodded, playing along. Then her phone buzzed, a message flashing on the screen from Eleanor. "Has the puppy signed the transfer yet?" My blood ran cold. I locked eyes with her, letting the silence stretch, heavy and sharp. Her face paled, her spatula trembling as she fumbled for words. "I'm just checking on the deal. Mom's pushy, she stammered, unprompted, her voice cracking. I leaned back, my voice low and steady. "Were you explaining, Sarah?" She froze, lips parting, but no answer came. When she started denying, her words tripping over each other, I pulled out my phone and played the roof recording. Her voice filled the room, mocking me, plotting my ruin. Her eyes widened, green with panic, as she lunged for the phone. I held it steady, watching her unravel. She screamed, called me paranoid, said I was jealous of her success, threatened to call the cops. I let her rage, recording every word, my comma weapon she didn't expect. When she finally collapsed, breathless, I slid Marcus's card across the table. "Talk to my lawyer," I said. "You might want to start packing." I walked out, my bag already packed, and drove to Claire's place. The duplex was behind me now, a chapter I'd never reopen. My phone lit up with Sarah's calls, then Eleanor's, their desperation a faint echo against my resolve. I didn't answer. I was done pretending, done living their lie. Claire's spare room was small, but it felt like freedom, a place to breathe while I planned my next move. The fight was just beginning, and I was ready. They'd built their web, but I was cutting through it, strand by strand, with the truth as my blade. The days at Claire's place were a strange kind of refuge, a quiet space where I could gather my strength, but the weight of what was coming never left me. I spent hours with Marcus, refining our plan, piecing together every scrap of evidence like a mosaic of betrayal. The emails from Daniel, the bank statements, the condo payments, the recordings, all of it formed a net I was ready to pull tight. Marcus was methodical, his comma anchor against my churning anger. We went over every angle, anticipating Sarah and Eleanor's defenses, preparing for their counterattacks. Claire watched me with worry in her eyes, her voice soft when she urged me to eat, to rest. I tried to reassure her, but my mind was locked on the fight ahead. I wasn't just protecting myself anymore, I was dismantling their lies, exposing them for what they were. I chose my battlefield carefully. Eleanor's Sunday dinner, a ritual she treated like a stage for her charm and control. I called ahead, my voice even, saying I wanted to talk openly, clear the air. Eleanor agreed, probably thinking she could steer me back into line. Sarah texted me afterward, her words dripping with false warmth, saying she was glad I was coming around. I read it and felt nothing but cold resolve. They thought they held the reins, but I was about to cut them loose. The night of the dinner arrived, the air thick with the scent of roasted lamb and Eleanor's signature lavender candles. The dining room was crowded. Eleanor's cousins, a few neighbors, all drawn by her hospitality. Sarah sat across from me, her smile practiced, her eyes flicking to me with a mix of caution and confidence. Eleanor presided at the head of the table, her laughter loud, her comments about my job pointed but veiled. The other guests felt the tension, their glances darting, their small talk strained. I stayed quiet, picking at my food, watching their performance. Every clink of silverware, every forced chuckle built the pressure in my chest. I wasn't here to eat, I was here to end this. As dessert was served, I pushed my plate aside and stood, my hands steady despite the pulse hammering in my throat. I asked for everyone's attention, my voice calm, but carrying a weight that silenced the room. I started with Sarah, speaking of the love I'd given her, the dreams we'd built, the house I'd believed was ours. My words were deliberate, each one a step toward the edge. Sarah's smile faltered, her fork frozen midair. Eleanor's eyes narrowed, sensing something wrong, but too proud to stop me. Then I looked at them both and played the recording from the roof. Sarah's voice echoed through the room, mocking me, plotting to take the house, laughing at my trust. Eleanor's smug approval followed, sealing their guilt. The guests froze, their faces a mix of shock and discomfort. Sarah's eyes went wide, her breath catching as she gripped the table. Eleanor slammed her glass down, her voice rising in a shriek. "That's a lie, a fake. You're trying to ruin us." Sarah's voice broke, tears streaming as she stammered that I'd twisted everything, that I was unhinged. A cousin tried to intervene, suggesting a misunderstanding, but I held my ground, my gaze locked on them. The doorbell rang, right on cue. Marcus stepped inside, his presence commanding as he introduced himself as my lawyer. The room went still, the air electric with dread. Marcus asked for calm, his tone professional but firm, and began laying out the evidence. He showed printouts of the secret bank account, the transfers to Eleanor, the payments for the condo in Sarah's name. He flipped to Daniel's emails, proof of Sarah's shady deals, and held up my credit report, pristine despite their lies. Each piece landed like a blow, stripping away their facade. The guests shifted, some looking away, others staring in disbelief. Eleanor erupted, her face red, her voice a venomous hiss. She called me a fraud, swore she'd sue me into oblivion, claimed her connections would bury me. Sarah crumpled, sobbing, her hands covering her face as she begged anyone to believe her. The chaos peaked when Eleanor lunged across the table, knocking over a candle that flickered out in a puddle of wax. I stood unmoved, my heart a stone as Marcus recorded every outburst, every threat. A neighbor tried to pull Eleanor back, her shouts drowning in the mess of overturned chairs and spilled wine. Marcus spoke again, his voice cutting through the noise. He announced the divorce filing, already in motion, and the injunction to halt the house purchase, approved by a judge that morning. He warned that any further threats would be documented, his eyes fixed on Eleanor. The room felt like it was holding its breath, the guests caught in a spectacle they couldn't escape. I took a step forward, my voice low and final. "Sarah, the lease on the duplex is up soon. You know what to do." I turned and walked out, Marcus at my side, leaving the wreckage behind. Eleanor's screams followed us, shrill and fading, while Sarah's sobs lingered like a ghost. My phone buzzed before we reached the car, calls from Sarah, then Eleanor, their panic a faint hum against the quiet in my chest. I didn't answer. The night air was cool, the stars sharp above, and for the first time in weeks, I felt the weight lift, just a fraction. Claire's place waited for me, a sanctuary where I could plan the final steps. But the fight wasn't over. As we drove, Marcus glanced at me, his voice steady. "They'll come at you harder now, Arthur. They're cornered, and that makes them dangerous." I nodded, staring out the window. I'd known this was coming, had felt it building since the roof. A small flare of defiance sparked inside me, unexpected but fierce. Let them try, I thought. I'd faced their worst and was still standing. Back at Claire's, I sat on her couch, the evidence spread out before me like a map of their downfall. My hands traced the papers, the recordings, the proof of their greed. But a new tension coiled in me, not fear, but anticipation. Sarah had sent a text, a single line begging to talk, promising to explain. I deleted it, my resolve hardening. There was no going back, no salvaging what they'd broken. The dinner had been their stage, but I'd turned it into mine, and the final act was still to come. The fallout from the dinner lingered like smoke, thick and choking. I stayed at Claire's, my days a blur of meetings with Marcus, preparing for the final showdown. He'd uncovered more dirt on Eleanor. Proof her interior design firm was a front for tax evasion, funneling fake invoices to inflate Sarah's commissions. The stakes were higher now, the web of their deceit unraveling faster than they could spin it. Sarah's messages flooded my phone, pleas for forgiveness one moment, veiled threats the next. Eleanor's were colder, promising ruin through her so-called connections. I ignored them all, saving each one for Marcus to catalog. Their desperation was a sign I was winning, but victory felt hollow, a heavy weight in my chest. The courtroom was stark, its fluorescent lights casting hard shadows. I sat beside Marcus, my hand steady, though my pulse thrummed with anticipation. Sarah entered first, her face pale, her designer heels clicking nervously. Eleanor followed, chin high, but her eyes darted, betraying her bravado. Their lawyer, a slick man with a practiced smirk, leaned in to whisper, but I caught Sarah's flinch when she saw me. The judge, a woman with a no-nonsense gaze, called the room to order, and the battle began. Marcus presented our case with surgical precision, laying out the recordings, bank statements, condo payments, and Daniel's emails. Each piece landed like a stone, building a wall their lawyer couldn't breach. He tried to fight back, claiming the recordings were illegal, but Marcus countered with state law, his voice calm and unyielding. The lawyer shifted tactics, painting me as a bitter husband, inventing grudges to smear Sarah. I sat still, letting their lies crash against the truth. The judge's pen scratched steadily, her expression unreadable. A ripple broke the rhythm when Sarah's lawyer paused, his phone buzzing with a message. He leaned toward her, his whisper urgent, and her face crumpled. Marcus had tipped off her real estate firm anonymously, sending proof of her commission fraud. The email confirmed an internal investigation, her license hanging by a thread. Sarah's hands shook, her composure fracturing as the reality sank in. Eleanor noticed, her voice rising in a hiss to quiet her, but the judge's gavel cut through, warning her to stay silent or face contempt. The outburst drew gasps from the gallery, a small crowd of onlookers drawn by the scandal's pull. The ruling came swiftly, the judge's voice sharp with disdain. She upheld the divorce, granting me the full down payment I'd saved, citing Sarah and Eleanor's recorded intent to defraud. She ordered Sarah to pay alimony, her inflated income now a trap of her own making. The judge's words lingered on their betrayal, calling it a calculated violation of trust, a phrase that echoed in my mind long after. Eleanor's face twisted, her lips parting in a silent snarl, while Sarah stared at the floor, tears streaking her makeup. I felt no joy, only a quiet release, like exhaling a breath I'd held too long. The aftermath spread like wildfire. Sarah's firm suspended her pending the investigation, her career effectively dead. Whispers of her fraud leaked into industry circles, closing doors before she could knock. Eleanor's empire began to crumble under an IRS audit, her clients pulling contracts, her stores shuttering one by one. Marcus heard from a contact that her own siblings were suing, claiming she cheated them out of family assets years ago. Their world was collapsing, and I watched from a distance, untouched by their chaos. One night, I woke to a crash outside Claire's apartment. My car's windshield was shattered, glass glittering under the streetlight. Security footage caught Sarah, her face wild, swinging a tire iron before fleeing. I filed for a restraining order the next day, the judge granting it without hesitation, adding another weight to her growing burdens. The act wasn't defiance. It was despair, a final thrash from someone drowning in her own choices. I felt a pang of pity, but it passed. She'd built this ruin, not me. I couldn't go back to the house we'd planned to buy. Its promise was tainted, a dream turned to poison. Instead, I found a modest apartment in a new neighborhood, its blank walls a fresh start. Claire helped me move, her quiet support a reminder I wasn't alone. I threw myself into work, finding solace in the rhythm of schedules and shipments. Old hobbies resurfaced, sketching, hiking small steps toward reclaiming myself. A therapist's office became a weekly stop, a place to untangle the scars Sarah and Eleanor left behind. Trust was harder now, but I was learning, cautious but not closed off. News reached me that Eleanor's company filed for bankruptcy, her name a cautionary tale in local headlines. I expected satisfaction, but it never came, just a hollow calm, a chapter closed. My life was mine again, shaped by choices I could stand behind. The betrayal had changed me. No question, but it didn't define me. I'd walked through fire and come out stronger, wiser, choosing truth over illusion, peace over vengeance. Betrayal doesn't destroy you, I learned, though it tries. It reshapes you, forces you to see clearly. Love can't be blind, and trust must be earned, not given. I rose from the ashes, not by tearing others down, but by rebuilding myself, brick by brick. The scars remain, faint now, reminders of a lesson hard won. I choose honesty, clarity, and the quiet strength of a life I can call my own. The courtroom's echo faded, but life didn't pause to let me catch my breath. I settled into my new apartment, its bare walls and hardwood floors a blank slate, free from the shadows of the duplex. Claire's laughter filled the space during her visits, her teasing about my lack of decor, a gentle nudge toward normalcy. Work became my rhythm again, the hum of logistics a steady pulse I could rely on. Yet Sarah and Eleanor's collapse sent ripples, waves that crashed against my newfound calm, testing the strength I'd rebuilt. Their downfall unfolded like a slow-burning fire. Sarah's real estate license was revoked after her firm's investigation confirmed fraud, her name blacklisted in the industry. She sold her car, moved to a cramped studio apartment, scraping by on odd jobs. Whispers followed her. Former colleagues, clients, even strangers who'd heard the story, each one a reminder of her choices. Eleanor's empire crumbled faster, her design firm gutted by the IRS audit. Major clients fled, stores closed, and her siblings' lawsuits stripped away what remained. A local paper ran a piece on her bankruptcy. Her photo splashed across the page, eyes hollow, pride shattered. I read it over coffee, feeling no triumph, only a quiet detachment, like watching a storm pass from a safe distance. But Sarah didn't let go easily. Late one night, my phone lit up with a voicemail, her voice slurred and ragged. She begged for a meeting, claiming she'd changed, that she'd do anything to fix things. I listened, my thumb hovering over delete, and felt a flicker of the old ache not love, but sorrow for what we'd been. The next message came hours later, her tone sharp, accusing me of ruining her life, vowing I'd regret it. I forwarded both to Marcus, who added them to the file for the restraining order. Her words were noise now, powerless against the walls I built. A sharper jolt came days later. I returned home to find my apartment door ajar, the lock scratched, papers from my desk scattered. My heart pounded as I scanned the room, nothing valuable gone, but the violation stung. The building's cameras caught Sarah slipping in behind a neighbor, her face tense, hands gloved. She'd left a note, scrawled and crumpled. "You can't erase me." I called Marcus, filed a police report, and tightened the restraining order. The judge was swift, barring her from contact, her actions piling more consequences on her already sinking life. I replaced the lock, added a deadbolt, and slept with the lights on that night, the intrusion a raw reminder of her refusal to let go. But also steeled me, she couldn't touch who I was becoming. The community felt the shockwaves, too. Friends of Eleanor's, once loyal, distanced themselves, their invitations drying up as her name became toxic. Sarah's old co-workers shared stories of her corner cutting, emboldened now that she was gone. At a local cafe, I overheard two strangers mention the scandal, their voices low, dissecting the mother and daughter who'd played too dirty and lost. I sipped my coffee, untouched by their gossip, but it struck me how far their ruin had spread, a cautionary tale etched into the town's memory. I didn't revel in their fall, though part of me had expected to. Instead, I focused inward, piecing myself back together. Work flourished, new contracts came in, my team praising my focus, unaware of the fight that had forged it. I rediscovered old joys, sketching at dawn, hiking trails where the silence drowned out the past. Therapy sessions, recommended by Claire, became a ritual, a place to unpack the betrayal without judgment. I spoke of Sarah, of Eleanor, of the man I'd been trusting to a fault, blind to red flags. The therapist listened, guiding me to see the strength in my survival, the wisdom in my scars. Claire was my rock, her apartment a haven when the world felt too heavy. One evening, she dragged me to a friend's art show, insisting I needed a break. The gallery was warm, alive with color and chatter, and for the first time in months, I laughed without effort, caught up in debates about abstract paintings. A woman there, a curator with sharp insights, caught my eye not for romance, not yet, but for the ease of her company, a reminder that connection didn't have to hurt. I left with her card, a small spark of possibility, cautious but real. The final blow to Eleanor came quietly, a text from Marcus confirming her firm's liquidation. Creditors swarmed, her assets auctioned to cover debts, her legacy reduced to a footnote. Sarah faced her own reckoning, a court date for violating the restraining order, her future narrowing with each misstep. I didn't follow the details. Marcus handled what mattered, shielding me from the noise. Their lives were their own now, separate from mine, their choices a weight I no longer carried. I stood in my apartment one morning, sunlight spilling through the window, and realized I was free. Not untouched, never that, but free to choose my path. The house we dreamed of was a ghost, too stained to reclaim. I didn't need it anymore. This new space, small but mine, held no lies. I hung a sketch on the wall, a rough outline of a horizon, and felt the stir of something new, hope, maybe, or just a piece of standing whole. Betrayal doesn't break you forever, though it tries. It carves deep, forces you to face the raw truth of who you trusted, who you were. I learned love can't be reckless, that trust is a gift to be guarded, not squandered. I rebuilt myself in the wreckage, not by crushing others, but by choosing clarity, by valuing the man I'd become. The scars are there, faint lines beneath the surface, but they don't rule me. They're proof I survived, grew, found my way. I stepped onto my balcony, coffee in hand, the city waking below. The air was sharp, carrying the promise of a day unburdened by the past. I thought of Sarah's note, her broken lock, Eleanor's empty stores, and let them drift away, weightless now. My life was here in the quiet moments, the honest work, the slow return of trust, not in others, not yet, but in myself. I sipped my coffee, watched the skyline, and knew I'd chosen truth, peace, and a future shaped by my own hands. The world kept turning, and I was ready for whatever came next.